Commander Park Jin-woo felt the weight of 50 years crashing down on his shoulders as he stood in the massive crystalline chamber of the Galactic Council. The translucent walls stretched impossibly high above him, carved from a single piece of living crystal that pulsed with soft blue light. Around him, representatives from 27 different species sat in their designated sections, their alien forms creating a bizarre symphony of colors, shapes, and sounds. The Vorthak Prime. Speaker dominated the central platform. Its 6 muscular arms spread wide as it addressed the assembly. Standing nearly 3 meters tall, the creature's reptilian hide glistened under the chamber's ethereal glow, while its 4 eyes tracked every movement with predatory precision. Behind those eyes, Jin-woo could see something that chilled him. To the bone, not hatred but cold, calculated indifference. Esteemed council members, the Vorthak's voice boomed through built-in translators, creating an eerie echo in dozens of languages simultaneously. For 5 decades, we have tolerated the human presence in our sacred halls. We have watched them spread across 17 star systems. We have shared our knowledge, our technology, our very essence of civilization with these newcomers. Jin-woo's fists clenched at his sides. Newcomers. As if humanity hadn't contributed just as much to the galactic community. Human engineers had solved the Nexari power crisis that nearly destroyed their hive worlds. Human doctors had created the cure for the crystal plague that was killing the architects. Human diplomats had negotiated peace between the warring Zellan tribes after centuries of bloodshed. The insectoid queen of the Nexari clicked her mandibles in agreement, her compound eyes reflecting the chamber's light like 1,000 tiny mirrors. The humans reproduce too quickly, she buzzed through her translator. Their expansion rate exceeds all acceptable parameters. In 50 years, they have established more colonies than most species achieve in 5 centuries. A murmur of agreement rippled through the assembly. The floating gas beings known as the ethereals pulsed with nervous energy, their translucent forms shimmering with worry. Even the ancient architects, beings older than human civilization itself, had turned their crystalline faces toward Jin-woo with what could only be described as concern. The Vorthak Prime speaker raised one massive, clawed hand, and silence fell like a curtain across the chamber. But their expansion is not our primary concern, it continued, its voice dropping to a menacing whisper that somehow carried to every corner of the vast space. It is their nature that threatens us all. A holographic display materialized in the center of the chamber, showing footage from various human worlds. Jin-woo watched scenes of human cities rising from barren planets, of massive terraforming machines reshaping entire continents, of human children playing in parks that hadn't existed a decade earlier. Observe their aggression, the Vorthak declared, as the images shifted to show human military exercises. They maintain standing armies on every world. They build weapons of war even in times of peace. They compete with each other constantly, pushing boundaries that should remain fixed. The display changed again, showing human sports stadiums filled with cheering crowds, human scientists working frantically in laboratories, human explorers pushing deeper into uncharted space. To Jin-woo, these images represented everything beautiful about his species, their drive, their curiosity, their refusal to accept limitations. To the assembled aliens, they apparently represented something terrifying. Their unpredictability makes them dangerous, added the Zellan ambassador, its tentacles writhing with agitation. Other species follow patterns. We can predict their behavior, plan for their actions. Humans, they change constantly, they adapt. They evolve not just biologically, but culturally, technologically, socially. How can we maintain galactic stability when one species refuses to remain static? Jin-woo finally found his voice. Honorable Council, he began, stepping forward despite the protocol that forbade interrupting proceedings. Everything you describe as threats are the very qualities that have helped humanity contribute to this council. Our adaptability solved problems that had plagued the galaxy for millennia. Our competitiveness drives innovation that benefits all species. Our military readiness has protected council worlds from pirate raids and hostile forces. The Vorthak's 4 eyes, fixed on him with laser intensity, Commander Park Jinwoo, you prove our point perfectly. Even now, facing judgment from your betters, you argue. You resist. You refuse to accept your place in the natural order. This is precisely why humanity cannot be allowed to continue unchecked. Chamber fell silent except for the soft humming of the life support systems and the occasional chirp or click from various alien representatives. Jinwoo looked around at beings his people had called friends and allies for half a century. He saw no sympathy in their eyes, no recognition of shared history or common purpose. He saw only fear. The motion before us today, the Vorthak announced formally, is the implementation of protective quarantine measures regarding the human species. All human settlements will be restricted to their origin system. All trade agreements are terminated immediately. All technological exchanges cease effective immediately. A joint peacekeeping fleet will be stationed at the edge of the Sol system to ensure compliance with these measures. The voting began immediately. Species after species registered their approval with mechanical efficiency. The Nexari Queen's chittering translated to affirmative. The ethereal's pulsing light patterns meant agreed. The architect's crystalline chimes rang out confirmed. Jinwoo's communication device vibrated against his wrist. The encrypted message was brief, but loaded with meaning. Project Starfall. Is authorized. Come home, Commander. As the final votes were tallied, 27 in favor, 0 against, 0 abstentions, Jinwoo felt something fundamental shift inside him. The betrayal cut deep, but beneath the pain something else was growing, something cold and determined and absolutely terrifying. Walking through the council chambers one final time, past beings who had just signed humanity's death warrant disguised as protective custody, Jinwoo allowed himself the smallest of smiles. These aliens thought they understood human nature well enough to fear it. They had no idea what humans were truly capable of when they had nothing left to lose. The galaxy had just made the worst mistake in its history. They had given humanity a common enemy, a unified purpose, and all the time they needed to prepare their response. As Jinwoo's transport ship lifted off from the council homeworld, he whispered a promise to the stars. You wanted to see what happens when you corner humanity. You're about to find out. Dr. Kim So-young's fingers moved like lightning across the holographic displays floating in the air around her. The underground facility stretched for kilometers in every direction, carved deep beneath the Gobi Desert, where no satellite could detect the massive operation happening below. The air hummed with energy from thousands of computers and fabrication units working around the clock. Quantum field stabilizers are holding at 97% efficiency, she called out to her team. Around her, hundreds of scientists and engineers worked at similar displays, their faces lit by the blue and green glow of advanced technology that made alien science look primitive. The new torpedoes can tear through any known shield system in the galaxy. The facility had once been a mining operation, but 30 years ago it had been quietly transformed into humanity's greatest secret. While the aliens thought they were monitoring a peaceful species slowly advancing through normal technological development, humans had been preparing for the day when trust would be broken. They had learned from history that cooperation was wonderful, but survival required preparation. General Lee Dong-min walked between the workstations, his military uniform showing the wear of countless sleepless nights. His weathered face carried the weight of command, but his eyes burned with determination. At 65, he had spent his entire career preparing for a war he hoped would never come. Now that it was here, he felt oddly relieved. Status report on the fleet construction, he demanded as he approached So-young's workstation. Sir, the shipyards in the Jupiter system are operating at maximum capacity, she replied, pulling up three-dimensional models of various spacecraft. We have completed 8,000 vessels of different classes. The remaining 2,000 will be finished within 6 months. The gravity cannons are actually ahead of schedule, and our quantum disruption torpedoes have exceeded all projections. In testing, the holographic display showed sleek destroyers designed for speed and precision strikes, massive dreadnoughts carrying enough firepower to level cities, and specialized ships equipped with weapons the galaxy had never seen. Each vessel incorporated technology that humans had developed in secret, combining their natural innovation with careful study of alien weaknesses. "Show me the Titan-class ships," Lee ordered. The display shifted to show the largest vessels in the human fleet. Each Titan stretched over 2 kilometers in length and carried enough weaponry to destroy an entire alien fleet. Their hulls were made from a new composite material that could absorb energy weapons and redirect the power to their own systems. Most impressive were the gravity cannons mounted along their spines, weapons that could create artificial black holes and tear apart anything in their path. "The aliens have never seen anything like these," So Young said with pride. "While they were content to use the same weapons for centuries, we kept improving. Every human ship can outfight 3 alien vessels of the same size. In the fabrication areas, massive robotic arms assembled weapons and ship components within human precision. Assembly lines ran continuously, staffed by workers who understood they were building humanity's future. The atmosphere was electric with purpose. Every person in the facility knew they were part of something historic." Engineer Park Hyun-woo looked up from his workstation where he was calibrating a new type of shield generator. "Dr. Kim, the adaptive shielding system is ready for installation. These shields can analyze incoming attacks and automatically adjust their frequency to provide maximum protection. The aliens won't know what hit them." The quantum disruption torpedoes represented perhaps humanity's greatest achievement. Unlike conventional explosives, these weapons attacked the basic structure of matter itself, causing enemy ships to simply fall apart at the molecular level. The testing had been spectacular. A single torpedo had completely disintegrated an asteroid the size of a city block. Captain Nam Ji-hai entered the facility after returning from the Jupiter shipyards. Her uniform was stained with the sweat of hard work, but her smile was triumphant. "General, the crews are completing final training exercises. Our pilots are ready for combat. The aliens trained for ceremonial formations and parade flights. We trained for war." Above them, hidden in the asteroid fields between Mars and Jupiter, the bulk of humanity's fleet waited in silent readiness. Thousands of ships lay powered down and invisible to alien sensors, protected by advanced stealth technology that bent light around their hulls. The aliens had established their quarantine fleet at the edge of the solar system, thinking they were containing a helpless species. They had no idea they were sitting next to a coiled serpent ready to strike. The secret bases on Jupiter's moons worked day and night, producing ammunition and spare parts for the coming conflict. Human miners had hollowed out entire asteroids to create hidden supply depots. Everything was designed to support a war that could span decades if necessary. Dr. Kim So-young pulled up a strategic overview of the entire operation. "General, our intelligence networks have mapped every alien military installation within 50 light years. We know their fleet positions, their supply lines, their communication networks. When we strike, it will be with perfect knowledge of their weaknesses." The communication systems crackled to life as President Yoon Tae-ho's address began broadcasting to every human facility in the solar system. His face appeared on screens throughout the underground complex, showing a man who had aged years in just weeks since the Council's betrayal. "My fellow humans," the President began, his voice carrying across the solar system to every hidden base and secret facility. "The aliens thought they could cage us like animals. They believed we would accept their judgment and fade quietly into history. They were wrong." Workers throughout the facility stopped what they were doing to listen. This was the moment they had all been waiting for, the moment when humanity would reveal its true strength to a galaxy that had underestimated them. "For 30 years, we have prepared for this day," President Yoon continued. "While they celebrated their superiority, we built the most powerful fleet in galactic history. While they made speeches about peace, we forged weapons that will reshape the balance of power forever. They wanted to see what humanity becomes when cornered. Let's show them." The underground facility erupted in cheers as workers returned to their tasks with renewed energy. The final preparations began as humanity prepared to transform from the galaxy's newest members into its most feared force. The aliens had made their choice, and now they would face the consequences of underestimating a species that refused to be caged. The space around the Vorthak core system shimmered like water as 10,000 human warships materialized from hyperspace in perfect geometric formation. Admiral Choi Min-ho gripped the command rail of the flagship Retribution. As reality bent around them, the stars shifting from streaks of light back to pinpricks of fire against the cosmic darkness. "Fleet deployment complete, Admiral," reported Navigation Officer Lee Soo-jin, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were about to unleash. "All vessels in position and awaiting orders." Min-ho surveyed the tactical display floating before him. The Vorthak home system spread out like a three-dimensional map, with the massive alien homeworld glowing blue-green at its center. Orbital. Defense platforms ringed the planet like deadly jewelry, while patrol fleets moved in lazy formations that spoke of centuries without real conflict. "Signal all ships," Min-ho commanded, his voice carrying the authority of humanity's collective. "Rage. All ships, this is Fleet Command. Remember, we are not here for genocide. We are here for justice. Engage military targets only. Civilian areas are strictly off-limits." The human fleet spread across space like a dark wave of death. Sleek destroyers darted between the massive Titan-class dreadnoughts, while specialized assault ships prepared their unique weapons systems. Each vessel bore the scars of humanity's determination. Angular hulls designed for war, weapon ports that glowed with barely contained energy, and shield generators that hummed with power. Captain Han Yu-jin stood on the bridge of the destroyer, indomitable, watching as the Vorthak defense fleet finally realized what was happening. Through the viewscreen, he could see alien ships scrambling to form defensive positions, their movements clumsy and panicked after centuries of peaceful patrols. "Look at them," muttered Weapons Officer Kim Tae-hyun from his station. "They move, like they're performing a parade drill, not fighting for their lives." The first Vorthak battleships emerged from their orbital docks, massive vessels that had once seemed impossibly powerful to human eyes. But that was before humanity had learned to build ships that made alien technology look like children's toys. The lead Vorthak vessel, a kilometer-long behemoth covered in ceremonial spikes and decorative armor, broadcast a challenge across all frequencies. "Human vessels, you are in violation of Galactic Council law." The alien commander's translated voice crackled through the communication systems. "Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Admiral Min-ho's response was swift and merciless. "All vessels weapons free. Show them what consequences look like." The human fleet opened fire simultaneously, and space erupted into a symphony of destruction. Gravity cannons mounted on the Titan-class ships created invisible waves that crumpled. Alien hulls like paper bags. The weapons reached out across thousands of kilometers, bending space itself to crush their targets from the inside out. Captain Han watched in fascination as a Vorthak heavy cruiser simply folded in on itself, its proud armor plates collapsing, as if grabbed by an invisible giant's fist. The alien crew never had time to scream before their ship became a compacted ball of twisted metal. "Quantum torpedoes away," reported Tactical Officer Park Young-soo from the Indomitable's weapon station. The missiles themselves were invisible to the naked eye, but their effects were unmistakable. Where they struck, alien ships didn't explode. They simply ceased to exist, their atomic bonds disrupted at the most fundamental level. A formation of 12 Vorthak fighters swept toward the human fleet, their pilots probably believing they could overwhelm the invaders through superior numbers. They learned too late that human ships carried more than conventional weapons. Cyber warfare specialists aboard the destroyer Relentless launched digital viruses that invaded the alien fighters' computer systems. "Their navigation systems are compromised," reported Communications Officer Kim Min-jung with grim satisfaction. "The viruses are causing their own ships to fire on each other." Indeed, the Vorthak fighters had begun attacking their own formation, their targeting systems hijacked by human malware, designed specifically to exploit alien computer architecture. Within minutes, the entire squadron had destroyed itself, while the human fleet watched without firing a shot. The orbital defense platforms around the Vorthak homeworld tried to mount a coordinated defense, but their ancient targeting systems couldn't track the human ships. The destroyers moved too fast, dancing between energy beams like fighters rather than warships. When they struck back, their weapons carved through the defense platform's shields as if they didn't exist. "Admiral, "The enemy is attempting to contact the Galactic Council," reported the communications officer aboard the Retribution. "Jam all their signals," Minho ordered coldly. "Let them face this alone, just as they wanted us to face quarantine alone." The battle turned into a massacre within the first hour. Vorthak ships built for show rather than combat crumbled under human weapons designed by a species that understood war. The aliens had grown soft during centuries of Council-enforced peace, while humanity had spent decades preparing for exactly this moment. Fighter pilot Lieutenant Colonel Nam Dong-wook led a squadron of human interceptors through the wreckage of what had once been the Vorthak's premier battle fleet. His ships were smaller than the alien fighters, but infinitely more deadly. Each interceptor carried miniaturized gravity generators that could create localized space distortions. "Target the command ship," he ordered his squadron. The Vorthak flagship, a massive vessel bristling with ceremonial weapons, tried to retreat toward the planet's surface. The human fighters caught it halfway, their gravity weapons creating a spiral of twisted space-time that tore the alien ship apart from bow to stern. On the planet's surface, the Vorthak government centers had been precisely targeted by long-range bombardment from the human fleet. Not civilian areas, those remained untouched, but every military command post, every government building that had voted for humanity's extinction, every symbol of the authority that had betrayed them. "Casualties?" Admiral Minho asked as the last alien resistance crumbled. "Minimal on our side, sir," reported the fleet's medical officer. "We lost one destroyer to lucky enemy fire, but the crew evacuated successfully. Alien military casualties are estimated at 2 million. Civilian casualties are 0. Minho nodded grimly. The precision of the attack had been perfect, devastating enough to cripple the Vorthak war machine, surgical enough to avoid the mass slaughter that would make humanity no better than their enemies. "Open a channel to the planet," he commanded. The main view screen flickered to life, showing the smoky ruins of what had once been the Vorthak capital's government district. Alien civilians peered fearfully from windows and doorways, their 6-limbed forms trembling with terror they hadn't felt in 1,000 years. "People of Vorthak Prime," Admiral Minho's voice boomed across the planet's communication networks. "Your leaders declared humanity a threat that needed to be contained. Today we have proven them correct. Your military is destroyed. Your government is in ruins. But you live because we chose mercy over vengeance." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in across 12 billion alien minds. "You declared us a threat. We have become one. Consider this your first lesson in what happens when you corner a species that refuses to be caged. Tell the galaxy what you have seen here today. Tell them that humanity remembers its friends and never forgets its enemies." The human fleet began moving toward their next target before the smoke had even cleared from the Vorthak homeworld. The hunt had only just begun. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had never seen such chaos. Representatives from dozens of species filled the crystalline chamber, their alien voices creating a cacophony of panic, anger, and desperate pleading. The great hall that had once echoed with dignified debate now resembled a marketplace during a fire. Ambassador Song Ji-un walked calmly through the mayhem, her human form seeming impossibly small among the towering aliens surrounding her. Yet every being in that chamber gave her a wide berth, as if she carried some invisible plague. In a way she did. She represented the species that had just shattered the galaxy's longest period of peace. "The Vorthak fleet is gone," chittered the insectoid queen, her compound eyes reflecting fractured images of terror. 12 hours, and their entire military was reduced to scrap metal floating in space. The ethereal ambassador's gaseous form pulsed with rapid color changes that translated to pure panic. "Our long-range sensors detect human fleets moving toward the Nexari core worlds. They're not stopping. They're not negotiating. They're just destroying everything in their path." Song Ji-eun reached the central speaking platform and activated the translation matrix. Her voice carried clearly through the chamber, cutting through the alien panic like a blade. "Honored representatives," she began, her tone as calm as if she were discussing the weather. "I bring greetings from humanity and terms for your immediate consideration." A Zelon delegate's tentacles writhed with agitation. Terms? You're committing genocide across the galaxy and you speak of terms. Genocide. Song Ji-un raised an eyebrow. Our reports indicate 0 civilian casualties in the Vorthak system. Their military installations were destroyed, their government centers reduced to rubble, but their population remains unharmed. We could have glassed their entire planet from orbit. Instead, we chose precision over vengeance. The chamber fell silent except for the soft humming of life support systems. Through the transparent walls, they could see the lights of approaching spacecraft. Not the usual diplomatic shuttles, but warships maintaining a respectful distance. The human fleet had followed their ambassador to the very heart of galactic civilization. "What do you want?" demanded the Architect Prime, its crystalline voice ringing like broken glass. Song Ji-un smiled, and somehow that expression was more terrifying than any weapon. "Surrender your military assets, dissolve your offensive capabilities, return to your homeworlds and consider your actions. You declared us a threat that needed to be contained. We're simply demonstrating that you were correct." As if summoned by her words, tactical displays throughout the chamber began lighting up with incoming reports. The Nexari Collective's home system was under attack, and the results were devastating beyond comprehension. Fleet Captain Kim Jae-wook commanded the assault on the Nexari core worlds from the bridge of the heavy cruiser Vindication. Before him, the enemy's hive ships moved in perfect coordination, their shared consciousness allowing them to act as a single organism. It was their greatest strength, and humanity had turned it into their fatal weakness. "Deploy the psychic disruptors," he ordered. The human fleet had studied Nexari biology for decades, learning how their collective consciousness functioned. Now they used that knowledge as a weapon. Specialized broadcasting ships transmitted carefully, crafted mental interference directly into the aliens' shared neural network. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Nexari ships that had been moving in perfect formation suddenly began firing on each other, their pilots unable to distinguish friend from foe through the static filling their collective mind. The elegant dance of their fleet formations became a spiral of destruction as confusion spread through their mental network like a virus. "Their command structure is collapsing," reported the ship's intelligence officer. "The psychic feedback is causing complete breakdown in their coordination systems." Within 3 hours, the entire Nexari defense force had destroyed itself while the human fleet watched from a safe distance. The hive ships that had once seemed so formidable now drifted as burning hulks, their crews trapped in individual consciousness for the first time in their species' history. Simultaneously, another human task force was demonstrating equally devastating effectiveness against the architects. Admiral Lee Kyung-suk observed the crystalline city ships of her targets through the viewscreen of the dreadnought, Retribution's Edge. The architects built their vessels from living crystal that could self-repair and adapt to damage, another strength that humanity had learned to exploit. "Begin sonic bombardment," she commanded. The human ships unleashed a carefully calculated frequency of sound waves that resonated with the crystal matrix of the enemy vessels. The aliens watched in horror as their beautiful city ships began to vibrate, the harmonic frequency building until their crystalline structures couldn't maintain cohesion. One by one, the architect vessels shattered like wine glasses struck by an opera singer's high note. Thousands of years of crystal growth and careful cultivation reduced to glittering dust in the void of space. The aliens who survived in emergency pods could only watch as their entire civilization's greatest achievements crumbled before their eyes. Back in the council chamber, the reports continued flooding in with mechanical precision. Each alien species was being systematically defeated, not through brute force, but through humanity's careful study of their weaknesses. The humans had spent 50 years as members of the galactic community, and they had used that time to learn exactly how to destroy everyone who had betrayed them. "The Zellan war fleets have surrendered without firing a shot," reported a trembling aide to the Zellan ambassador. "Their commanders are requesting terms. The Trilaxian Defense Force is abandoning their posts," added another messenger. "They're evacuating to their colony worlds." Song Ji-un listened to each report with the same calm expression, occasionally nodding as if the destruction of galactic civilization was proceeding exactly according to schedule. which in fact it was. You see, she addressed the assembled representatives, this is what happens when you underestimate a species. You assumed we were primitive because we were young. You thought we were weak because we sought cooperation. You believed we would accept imprisonment because we valued peace. The massive display screens around the chamber showed tactical updates from across the galaxy. Red markers indicated destroyed or neutralized alien fleets, while blue markers showed the steady advance of human forces. The pattern was unmistakable. Humanity was systematically dismantling the military power of every species that had voted for their quarantine. Fleet Admiral Park Soo-min's latest tactical assessment, Song Ji-eun continued, reading from a datapad as if discussing routine trade negotiations, indicates that 60% of Council military assets have been neutralized. Estimated time to total victory, 48 hours. The Vorthak Prime Speaker, one of the few survivors from their homeworld's government, stepped forward on shaking legs. What happens after you've destroyed us all? Song Ji-eun's smile never wavered. That depends entirely on your species' ability to learn from this experience. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We never did. We wanted to be part of it, to contribute to it, to help it grow and prosper. You decided we were too dangerous for that dream. She gestured toward the tactical displays showing the systematic destruction of galactic military power. This is what dangerous actually looks like. Every ship we destroy, every base we reduce to rubble, every fleet we scatter to the void, all of it could have been avoided if you had simply honored the trust we placed in you 50 years ago. The chamber fell into stunned silence as the full magnitude of humanity's response became clear. They hadn't just built a fleet. They had crafted the perfect instrument of galactic warfare, designed specifically to counter every known alien military advantage. The quarantine hadn't contained a primitive species. It had trapped the galaxy's apex predators in their lair, giving them time to sharpen their claws. The combined fleet of 23 alien species hung in space around the Council homeworld like a desperate constellation of dying stars. Every surviving warship from across the galaxy had gathered for this final stand. Ancient architect crystal ships that had weathered millennia, sleek ethereal vessels that phase-shifted through dimensions, and massive Vorthak dreadnoughts hastily repaired after their devastating defeat. Admiral Choi Min-ho stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching the enemy formation through tactical displays that showed over 8,000 alien vessels. It was the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history, representing the combined military might of an entire civilization determined to prevent human dominance. "Sir, they're broadcasting surrender terms," reported Communications Officer Lee Soo-jin, her voice tight with anticipation. "Let them speak," Min-ho replied, though his expression showed he had no intention of accepting anything less than total victory. The transmission crackled through the ship's systems, carrying the voice of the ethereal High Commander. "Human fleet, we offer terms of negotiation. Withdraw your forces, and we will discuss a peaceful resolution to this conflict. The Council is prepared to reconsider the quarantine order." Min-ho's laugh was cold as space itself. "Tell them that the time for negotiation ended when they voted unanimously to cage humanity. Today, we finish what they started." The human fleet spread across the void like a dark wave of inevitability. 5,000 ships had survived the galaxy-wide campaign, each one battle-tested and crewed by humans who had seen their species betrayed by beings they had trusted as friends. The fleet formations moved with mechanical precision, every vessel knowing exactly where it needed to be. "All ships, this is Admiral Min-ho," his voice carried across every human vessel in the system. 17 minutes. That's how long we're giving them to surrender unconditionally. After that, we finish this war the way they forced us to begin it." The alien fleet began moving into defensive positions, their formations elegant but predictable after centuries of fighting ceremonial battles. The Nexari hive ships tried to coordinate their collective consciousness, but human jammers had learned to disrupt their mental networks. The architect vessels charged their crystal weapons, only to discover that human shields had adapted to deflect their energy frequencies. Captain Nam Hyun-soo watched from the destroyer, Vengeance, as the countdown reached 0. They really think they can stop us with the same tactics that failed them 20 times already, he muttered to his crew. The battle began and ended in 17 minutes of devastating violence. Human gravity cannons reached across space to crush alien hulls like tin cans, while quantum torpedoes phased through shields to tear enemy ships apart at the molecular level. The combined alien fleet that had taken months to assemble was reduced to glowing debris floating around the Council homeworld. "Enemy fleet neutralized," reported Tactical Officer Kim Dong-hyuk. "No human casualties, all targets eliminated or surrendered." Admiral Minho nodded grimly as he watched the last alien fighters power down their weapons in surrender. "Signal all ships, begin landing operations on the Council homeworld. It's time to finish this properly." The surface of the Council world had never seen military occupation. For thousands of years, it had been a place of diplomacy and peaceful negotiation, its crystal spires reaching toward the heavens like monuments to civilized discourse. Now human dropships descended through the atmosphere like metallic rain, carrying Marines who had spent years dreaming of this moment. Director Kim Hye-jin walked through the ruined council chambers, her boots clicking against crystal floors stained with the dust of collapsed archways. Around her, alien representatives huddled in small groups, their various forms trembling with fear and defeat. The great hall that had once echoed with speeches about galactic unity now stood as a monument to the price of betrayal. "Attention, surviving council members," she announced, her voice carrying clearly through the damaged chamber. "I am Director Kim Hye-jin, speaking on behalf of the human species and our unified government. The old order dies today. Your council of fear and oppression is finished." The Vorthak Prime Speaker, one of the few alien leaders to survive the war, stepped forward on unsteady legs. What are your terms?" it asked, its multiple eyes showing a terror that its species had never known. Kim Hye-jin consulted her datapad with the same calm efficiency she might use for a grocery list. "The terms are simple and non-negotiable. First, immediate and permanent dissolution of the Galactic Council. Second, surrender of all remaining military assets from every species that voted for humanity's quarantine. Third, establishment of individual species sovereignty under human oversight to ensure this kind of betrayal never happens again." Murmurs of despair rippled through the assembled alien representatives. The ethereal ambassador's gaseous form flickered with patterns that translated to anguish. "You're dismantling 10,000 years of galactic civilization." "No," Kim Hye-jin replied with quiet authority. "You did that when you voted to cage humanity. We're simply clearing away the wreckage so something better can be built in its place." She gestured toward the massive view screens that showed human ships throughout the galaxy. "You sought to quarantine us because you feared what we might become. Now you know. We became your reckoning. Every species that raised their voice against humanity, every delegate who voted for our imprisonment, every leader who thought they could lock us away and forget about us, all of you learned the same lesson today." The surviving aliens watched in stunned silence as the screens displayed human colonies already being established on former council worlds. But these weren't the brutal occupations they had expected. Human administrators worked alongside alien. Civilians, human engineers helped repair damaged infrastructure, and human doctors treated alien wounded without discrimination. "We didn't want to conquer the galaxy," Kim Hye-jin continued, her words being broadcast simultaneously to every inhabited world within 100 light-years. "We wanted to be part of it. We offered cooperation, friendship, and mutual advancement. You chose to see those gifts as threats." The Architect Prime's crystalline form chimed with notes of confusion. "If you didn't want conquest, why did you build such a massive fleet? Why did you prepare for war while speaking of peace?" Kim Hye-jin's smile held no warmth. "Because we learned from human history that those who want peace must prepare for war. We hoped we would never need these ships, but we weren't naive enough to believe that hope was sufficient protection." Outside the council chambers, human Marines supervised the orderly evacuation of alien military personnel. Every weapon was catalogued and secured, every piece of military technology examined and either destroyed or confiscated. The species that had once commanded the galaxy's respect through superior firepower now lined up like children, to surrender their toys to adult supervision. The age of council dominance is over, Kim Hyejin announced to the assembled aliens, and the galaxy beyond. From this day forward, every species will govern itself according to its own nature and desires. But never again will any group of species presume to judge another species' right to exist and expand among the stars. Admiral Minho entered the chamber, his uniform bearing the scars of the long campaign, but his bearing triumphant. Director, the final transport ships are departing from the outer colonies. Every human settlement that was abandoned under the quarantine order is being re-established. Our people are coming home. The irony wasn't lost on anyone present. The quarantine that was meant to contain humanity had instead given them time to prepare the most devastating military campaign in galactic history. The Council had tried to cage a dragon and discovered they had only succeeded in giving it time to grow stronger. Let this be remembered across all worlds and throughout all time, Kim Hyejin addressed the galaxy one final time. Humanity asked for friendship and received betrayal. We offered cooperation and were met with imprisonment. We sought to build bridges and found only walls. She paused, letting her words echo through the ruined chamber and across the communication networks of 1,000 worlds. We were betrayed, we were underestimated, and we have emerged victorious. The galaxy chose to see us as a threat, so we became the greatest threat it had ever known. But now, from Earth to the galactic rim, we offer something new, not domination, but protection. Not conquest, but guidance. We will ensure that no species ever again faces the choice between submission and extinction. As human ships spread across former council space, they carried with them a simple message. The age of human expansion had begun not through exploration, but through the undeniable right of the strong to determine their own destiny. The galaxy had learned its most important lesson, written in the wreckage of alien fleets and the ashes of ancient authority. Never underestimate a species with nothing left to lose and everything to prove. The Unchained Tea.